Not really the end of the world. But simply for the fact that they can't really be bolted or slowed, or you can't use aerial shackles on them, it's pretty safe to go harass with these guys by themselves, because they can usually make a clean getaway without at least taking any kills. The gyrocopters might chase them across the map, but you can always just kind of run them into your base and coil as necessary. It's pretty important that Sweet attacked at that point and started racking up some kills against the gyrocopters, because once he masses up like a whole freaking ton of those, yeah, your destroyers are going to die too fast. So you definitely, as a general rule, you want to stay on the offensive against a human player. And you'll find that a lot of the problems that you have kind of are diminished if you have a good offense. For example, a lot of people have trouble with human nukes, understandably, but by staying on the offensive and doing all these creep jacks and stuff, Sweet has managed to keep it to where the Mountain King is only level 3 and the Paladin is only level 2. And following in the footsteps of continuing to do this sort of thing, he is attacking again. And once again, we're going to see more Chain Morph Destroyers owning the crap out of more gyrocopters. You actually don't have to target the destroyers. All you have to do in most cases is just attack move. Because they're an aerial target, the destroyers will automatically go for the gyrocopters over like anything that's on the ground. You might have to direct them away from, say, a Dragonhawk Rider or something like that, but even then the splash will go over from the Dragonhawk Riders and kill the hell out of the gyrocopters. This is just basically Sweet had an advantage, and so he kept pressing the attack. He knows now that the human player is, he's kind of on the ropes. He just went in there and did a bunch of damage to his army, so he's fairly confident the human player is going to have to play, mostly defensively for now. So he's going to take this opportunity to go ahead and creep his Lich up to level 5, because like I said, this is kind of a battle of hero levels. What the human player wanted to do, and what Sweet has been keeping him from doing for the most part, is he wanted to build up like an army, which you will get quicker if you don't expand, and use that army to power creep up his Mountain King and Paladin and get really strong nukes. However, if you really just keep on his ass and you show no fear, and don't worry too much about things like bolt surrounds, and just kind of try to use your micro to solve those sorts of problems, you can end up like this, with a larger army and higher level heroes than your opponent. Sweet, I think at this point, is going to go in for another push. Eventually, though, his opponent is finally going to lure him into fighting a few too many towers at the same time, and he's going to bust him up pretty badly with his gyrocopter army, and I think get a couple of kills. That doesn't happen quite yet. Let me talk a little bit about the differences here between this and when a human player expands. Like I said, he's going to have a bigger army quicker because he's not spending as much of his time building things like towers and expansions and a whole lot of peons. So normally, like I said, unless you harass them very well, he's going to be able to creep his heroes up pretty quickly, and those high-level human heroes can be absolutely deadly and also kind of unkillable if you've ever had to deal with a 1100 plus hit point Mountain King, as you'll often see them get if they are able to creep out and get a bunch of nice items and things like that. Here's that battle I mentioned where Sweet is actually going to get kind of busted up here. If it manages to happen where those gyrocopters are firing at you and you're not shooting back at them, which, the gyrocopters kind of got the first volley there, and the human tower is obviously taking their toll on the destroyers. So Sweet is forced to back off a little bit at this point. He probably, I don't know, it's hard to say. He might have won the game a little bit quicker at this point if he'd backed off and set up an expansion of his own. But he's going to go ahead and fight here. I don't think his destroyers have a whole lot of mana, so a few of them end up getting killed. He still actually manages to take down the gyrocopters, but his Death Knight is going to die as a result of the nuke, and the Lich is going to follow pretty soon afterwards. Once again, he is going to manage to snag a kill on the Archmage. Whenever you're dealing with this tri-hero combination of Pally, Mountain King, and Archmage, don't be afraid to lay into the Archmage. In fact, it's usually going to be your best choice rather than trying to kill the Paladin or the Mountain King, because the Paladin and the Mountain King have more hit points and generally more means of staying alive than the Archmage does. And besides, if you manage to get a kill on the Archmage, you kind of rob him of that infinite mana thing that he gets from Brilliance Aura, which is really a big part of what makes this nuke so deadly. Okay, here in the late game, you're going to see kind of the strength of going for destroyers. What happens is, now that he's not able to kind of keep pumping out gyrocopters, and Sweet has managed to keep enough of his destroyers alive, he's going to be able to pick fights with his army, with the enemy human army, using only his destroyers, and he's actually going to leave his heroes kind of safely back, where they don't have to worry about the incessant nuking from the high-level Paladin and Mountain King. Right now, I think all he's doing is just kind of sending the destroyers around the map to see if he can spot an expansion. Actually, to be honest, I think... Okay, I take that back. All he's going to do is try to evade the gyrocopters. He doesn't want the gyros to catch him kind of in his flight back to his base. So he's going to try and take like a more non-obvious path. Actually, that ends up being pretty important with a pretty important tactic with most flying units. It's important to do this with gargoyles. Like, if he knows where your gargoyles are flying, he can, like a Night Elf player, for example, can stick a bunch of dryads right in that path, and then your gargoyles fly right over them, the panda breathes fire on them, and they all die. And boy, does that suck. So just kind of, if you're trying to retreat with a large group of air units, kind of hold shift and right-click a more circuitous path around the map, and that will often get them home more safely. He's sending his Death Knight out solo. What he wants to do here is make sure, or at least find out where his opponent is setting out an expansion. It's a little risky, but he's got a town portal on the Death Knight, and he's actually going to end up having to use it in a minute. Fortunately for him, Yellow hasn't actually set up an expansion yet. Okay, here's a kind of important point. When you're skirmishing in small numbers with... and this applies to small numbers only, with destroyers against flying machines, you definitely want to try and grab the destroyer that is taking the most damage and run it away. If the flying machines try to chase that destroyer, the other destroyers are actually going to be able to keep dealing their focus damage to the flying machines, and flying machines will die because they're heavy armored, and they take really a pretty obscene amount of damage from the destroyers. It's just that in very large numbers, flying machines are able to deal an obscene amount of damage back to the destroyers, and it's all a matter of who kills who quicker. Okay, well, the Death Knight, like I said, had to use that Scroll of Town portal, and from this point on, he's going to be playing, you're going to see him playing pretty cautiously with his heroes, and he's going to always send his destroyers into the battle first, and he's going to try to soften up the enemy army with them. He's using his shade at this point, wisely, of course, to keep checking for expansions, because he let his mine run out. He knows that, like, chances are if he tries to set one out, the flying machines make such good scouts that his opponent's likely to find it. So it's really better for him to put all his resources at this point in the game into preventing his opponent from getting an expansion, as opposed to trying to secure one of his own. We're getting pretty close to the final battle here. This is just kind of a boring little moment in the game where the two armies are looking for each other. I think Sweet's, not getting bored. I mean, this is a wise decision. He goes ahead and goes into the enemy base and, pops off whatever towers he can. For those, I'm sure most people know this, but for those of you that don't know, destroyers deal magic damage. Human towers are heavy armored, not fortified. So if you focus them down with the destroyers, they will die very quickly. It also got him an extra level on his Lich, because towers do give experience. Here's what happened. While Sweet was, he went ahead and did that, hit his base while he was looking for the enemy army, and he found him creeping. So now he's sending his army to keep that under control. Here we go with the destroyers. The heroes and the ghouls are backing off because he knows those are just going to die really fast to the Mountain King Stormbolt. The destroyers, on the other hand, the worst thing they have to worry about is an orb of fire from the Mountain King and just the attack of the Archmage, and that can all be solved with a little bit of micro. Sweet has, fairly natural advantage at this point with having more destroyers than his opponent has gyrocopters. That's just kind of from having played well through the rest of the game, which is, how you get to this point in any case, really. But he's basically gotten to a point, and this is fairly common, especially really against, single base humans that don't expand. You end up where you have destroyers and he doesn't really have enough stuff to kill them. As long as you play smart from that point and you don't let your heroes get nuked to death, you're gonna win. Once again, he's kind of bringing his heroes in to, like, toss a coil here to the destroyer and that sort of thing, but he was keeping him back a ways. Now that he's kind of more engaged him in combat, he started firing at the Paladin a little bit, but changed his mind pretty quickly and blitzed the Archmage one more time. I believe that's the third time he's killed the Archmage that game. Once again, much easier target to take down than either the Paladin or the Mountain King, even though I realize the Paladin and Mountain King are sources of greater frustration compared to the Archmage. But yeah, that guy is kind of the weak link, so if you're looking to break that tri-hero power, the Archmage is the one to deal with.